WHGE 95.3 FM. Coming up, the Open Eye. Hey, Sherry, I see you, sister. All right. Actually, kind of on time today. All right, let's get it going.
Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego diddling. We do so because the chains of oppression on our people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM, the education advocacy station. I'm your host, Third Eye Optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, ready to get them started. Yeah, ready to get that eye open. Learn some things today. All right, every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing. And that's what we do here on the Open Eye SD. I got this from Brother Steve Wright. A lot of us don't really understand the importance of our ecology, how each creature plays a part. And I think one of the most important creatures is an insect, and that's the bee. As Brother Steve Wright said, I have the utmost respect for bees. Did you know those little bees you see in the evening sitting on flowers are old bees? Old and sick bees don't return to the hive at the end of their day. They spend the night on flowers. And if they have the chance to see another sunrise, they resume their activity by bringing pollen or nectar to the colony. They do this sensing that the end is near. No bee wants to die in the hive so as not to burden the others. So next time you see an old little bee sat upon a flower as the night closes in, thank the little bee for her long life of service. No, I'm not just talking about bees, right? WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Let me get my disclaimer out the way here.
The views and opinions expressed on the Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors, and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM, nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
WHGE 95.3 FM. All right. You know, there's a term for living creatures who are not permitted to control their own reproduction. That term is livestock. And that's obviously how white male conservatives view women, as livestock. You know, it's something that you see so many that actually believe that women should not have ever had the right to vote. Even white women. That's just nuts, man. You know, it's just crazy. This is the Open Eye, moving right along. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, okay. Brother Vaughn, I keep waiting for someone to tell me, yeah, I was a fruit picker until those illegals showed up. Yeah, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something. The immigrants ruining your life are Rupert Murdoch, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel. Not the apple picker who can barely afford to rent a studio apartment. Murdoch and Musk are controlling the narrative on two of the biggest platforms and pushing disturbing propaganda. Running around talking about they taking our jobs. It's something how I'm reminded why we have to do what we do and reverse the brainwashing. Now, Frederick Douglass said when he was a boy, slaves from his master's plantation used to argue and fight with slaves from the neighboring plantations over which slave master was wealthier and had the nicest house. Damn. You working from can't see in the morning to can't see at night, and you taking pride in your slave master's wealth and domicile. You spend your days in tattered rags, hungry most of the time. But Bull Master's house sure is nice. And it's better than that house over there. And the crazy thing is, not a whole lot has changed. Not a whole lot has changed. I can remember downstate where they had the chicken farms. And black people working on them chicken farms would argue with other blacks working on other chicken farms. Mr. Purdue's chickens is bigger and juicier than Holyoke chickens are. And actually would damn near go to blows over whose chickens were better. That's why we have to reverse the brainwashing, y'all. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Where we at here? WHGE 95.3 FM. Yes, indeed. You know, as we debate who's going to be president, and who you're going to vote for, and what have you, a lot of us don't see a lot of difference between both parties. And for the most part, that's true. I hear some folks saying there's hate on both sides, and I can't disagree. Here's the thing. One side hates black people, brown people, Asian people, gay people, any people who don't fully subscribe to their own rigid ideologies or who don't look like them. The other side at least claims to hate bigots. Yeah, at least they claim they hate bigots. Yeah. And when I say not a lot has changed, even now you got to be careful where you walk, where you travel. We need to bring the Green Book back. For those of you that don't know, the Green Book was the guide to travel safely throughout the country for black people. Another thing, if you find yourself in a place that's predominantly white, be prepared to be approached by some Kens and Karens, some white people who are going to demand to see your manumission papers. Not just the cops, not just the race soldiers. Prime example, Sarasota, Florida. A Sarasota's mother's viral video has sparked outrage after she alleged a group of older white men racially profiled and followed her black son just one day after Hurricane Milton made landfall. The video has been shared widely on TikTok, Facebook, and now with more than 3 million views. Responses from residents concerned about the incident have continued to grow since the video was first posted by the young man's mother, Whitney Portella. In the 1-minute video clip, Portella's son, a young black man, can be seen being followed down the street in a neighborhood by at least 3 white men. At least one of the men had been following Portella's son in a vehicle for several minutes. The morning aftermath of Hurricane Milton, my son wanted to walk the neighborhood to talk to his girlfriend on his phone because we didn't have power, so his service was bad in the house. This is what he had to deal with. Even after telling these men he lived here, they were not satisfied with his answer and continued to harass him. The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office posted on Facebook on Tuesday evening that it was investigating a complaint filed by the young man's mother. The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office is aware of a video circulating on various social media platforms of an incident that occurred in the Sky Ranch neighborhood on Thursday, October 10th. Detectives have been assigned and are actively locating and interviewing witnesses in what appears to be an altercation involving the neighbors with a male subject who was recording himself as he was walking. The sheriff's office takes these matters seriously and will fully investigate any allegations of criminal activity. Okay. Leaders of the Sarasota branch of the NAACP are working with the family. President Trevor Harvey said the video was alarming, which prompted him to assist Portella in her complaint. Okay. Now, the crazy thing is, one of the men that was following this young man and questioning him about his validity or privilege to be in that neighborhood, said he didn't walk by 4 or 5 times, 3 or 4 times, or whatever it was, he lied. And then he approached the white woman. And the white woman said so. And we're supposed to believe that? Because how many times have they lied? They have a history of lying on black men and putting their lives in danger. Black men and black boys. And of course, we most famously recall Emmett Till. If he hadn't have been lied on, he would have lived a long life. Don't know if he'd still be with us. He'd be 80 something or whatever. But he wouldn't have died at 13. Brother Mishwa C. And one of these Neanderthals, mayonnaise mafia captains or whatever they are, lost his job for harassing that young black man. So, all right. What's up, boy? WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist. Okay, something that needs to be addressed here, and before I address this, I need to make a distinction. There is a big difference between the black MAGA men and most of those black men that express such strong misgivings about both parties that they have decided not to vote. Of course, the black Maggotites, nothing but coons. I'm just gonna tell you straight out. You know, you talk about suffering the slave mentality. And the crazy thing is, these black Republicans, one of them came out just the other day and quoted Malcolm X. Malcolm X would have slapped you in your mouth. He came out the other day and said, blacks in the Democratic Party are house Negroes, and that filial Negroes would be Republican and voting for Trump. Have you hit your head? How retarded could you be? Now, on the other side, you have those that are saying, you know, they're going to vote the couch. Now, some of them, and a lot of them, especially those that have a large following, I think are undercover MAGAites. I really do. Okay? But you have a lot of them that rightfully so have misgivings about both parties and are tired of voting the lesser of two evils. Okay? And that needs to be addressed and understood. But the Democratic Party screwed up. They made a big mistake in sending out Barack Obama to chastise these men. That was a big mistake. And I've heard some supporters, black supporters, that were in support of that said, you know, if a brother can't come talk to you, who can? But when you have a brother that comes at other black men with this paternal attitude and waving his finger and not actually giving them good reason or recognizing their misgivings, because I think the funniest thing he said in that chastisement was that black men are opposed to Kamala Harris, because they're misogynists. And I think that's the biggest crop he could have came out with. Because most black men who were raised in the village, in the black community, have no insecurities about black women being in power because they grew up around strong black women. And I'm not just talking about those black men that were raised by single mothers. I was raised by a single woman, but my mother would tell you quick that she is not a single parent. I have a father in my life. He has a father in his life. So I'm not saying that influence is why we don't adhere to misogyny. That's a crop for most of us. The reason a lot of black men had misgivings about Kamala Harris is because of her service in California when she's a prosecutor and attorney general. There were some things she done that we had a big problem with. All right? But like I said, sending Barack Obama out there, because he's lost a lot of credibility in the black community. And rightfully so. Though there's a lot of us that look at him and say, how dare you come wave your finger at us? And we're not so silly to have not thought it through. I'm not one for vote the couch. I'm going to tell you straight out. All right? But I understand those that have the misgiving. And they're not doing so from a place of misogyny or foolishness about supporting a white supremacist. Like I said, there's a big difference between those that have misgivings about both parties and those coons that want to trick you into voting for Trump. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Obama's comments did not sit well with some politicians and public figures. Ohio Senator Nina Turner and actor Wendell Pierce, who also called for black men to turn out for Harris and have criticized those that have misogynist views. Now, Turner said, why are black men being lectured to? Why are black men being belittled in ways that no other group is? See, I've seen Obama before in front of black crowds, where his attitude, posture, and rhetoric was a hell of a lot different than it would be for white crowds or other groups, Hispanics, gays, or whatever. How dare you? The hell you think you are? And like I said, those of you that say, well, if a brother can't come and talk to you about it, it's all in how you say it and how you bring it. You're not going to talk to me any kind of way and think it's okay. And that's the feeling amongst a lot of black men. And like I said, I advise those that say vote the couch to reconsider. And I understand that, you know, like I said, your reasoning is that black issues have not been addressed as strongly as issues for other groups. And yeah, I understand that Kamala Harris put out this proposal or plan that she's going to support black entrepreneurs, but you got to read the small print. Because even the most liberal white will have a problem with you saying just black people. That's why her proposal says, you know, she'll provide forgivable loans for black entrepreneurs and others. See, that part's in the small, and others. And that's a big turnoff for a lot of black men and black people, black entrepreneurs, and rightfully so. And rightfully so. what's this? I was looking for what my man said, but that's okay. Right? Like I said, don't get it mixed. And I say this to those that say vote the couch and those that criticize those that vote the couch. We put some thought into this. Those of us that have decided that we're going to go with the lesser of two evils have recognized that the evil that we vote against has long declared war, open war, on our people. And like Brother Vaughn said, Project 2025 ain't no joke. They got big plans. Cops have qualified immunity. The orange disaster wannabe dictator wants to give cops immunity across the board. And every time I hear this, what comes to my mind? Sonia Macy, who was murdered after she called for help. And if it was up to the orange disaster and the authors of 2020 Project 2025, what that cop did would be all right. Like I told you, I've seen these cops come out and say, well, if we rough somebody up and get punished for it, what's the use of taking a call? Because that's their mindset. And don't tell me cops need to be trained better. No. How many times have I told you that's BS? They ain't got to be trained not to murder white people. But those of you that bring criticism to those black men who had misgivings about both parties, don't make them out to be foolish. Recognize those misgivings. Understand why they're where they're at. But the last damn thing you need to do is wave your finger in their face and accuse them of not thinking it through. Those of you that say vote the couch, like I said, don't let one issue put us in a position where the gains that we made are thrown by the wayside. Because if the orange disaster gets back in there and his minions believe that the first people they coming after are us, and that they're going to try to turn back the clock to 1850. It ain't no joke. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Third eye optometrist Patrice Gibbs here. For real? Really? Y'all actually believe that we made the N-word ours and that using it now ridiculously empowers us? Let me tell you something. Dogs and slaves are named by their masters. Freemen name themselves. I'm old school. I grew up in the 70s. A time when a black man calling another black man the N-word could lead to a fight or worse. Them's fighting words. That's what we were taught. We didn't use the word unless we were ready to fight. And I rarely use the word now. I heard what people are saying about taking the word's power, making it acceptable, making it an acceptable noun, a term of affection even. I disagree. It is a word that describes our once wretched survival and place in the structure, in the social structure that is white supremacy. Dogs and slaves are named by their masters. Free men name themselves. What do you believe? Y'all also believe that a Bible that was written by our proven most ungodliest enemies contains the true words of God? You also believe that a Bible that was in fact brutally beaten into submission within the blood-soaked minds of our enslaved ancestors will now ridiculously set us free? Are you so mentally enslaved that you cannot see how ridiculous and absurd those beliefs are? Okay. And for those that don't understand what we're up against, even some of the former supporters of the orange disaster and of the right wing, the GOP and the silly GOP grand old party, nothing real grand about them. But it's from Steve Smith, who is a GOP strategist. And I quote, "What we're seeing is 5 things. We're seeing somebody go to mass rallies, constantly lie to incite fervor in a cult personality base. We're seeing him make victimization honorable. They're all victims, you know. We're seeing the allegation of conspiracy, the deep state, hidden nefarious movements that only the leader can see. We're seeing the scapegoating of minority populations, the vulnerable population. And lastly, the assertion that I need to exercise these powers that no president has ever claimed to have." This is deliberate. This is an assault on objective truth. And once you get people to surrender their sovereignty, when they think what is true is what the leader says is true, or what is true is what the leader believes is true, even though what is actually true is staring you in the face. When that happens, you're no longer living in a democratic republic. 35% of this country has checked out. They joined the cult. They are obedient to the leader. And this is straight out of 1984. It's also straight out of 1934 Germany. In 1984, Winston, at the end of the book, when the party leader is holding up 4 fingers and says, "Winston, how many fingers are there?" And Winston says, "I see 4. And the leader of the party says, "But it could be 3. It could be 5. It's what the party tells you." And that is when democracy dies in America, or the semblance of democracy. Yeah. You know, remind me of one of the Star Wars movies. Democracy dies with thunderous applause. WHGE 95.3 FM. Good morning, my children of the sun. This is Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist. As I want to thank some of my Facebook friends and listeners and what have you for sending me information and posting great information. Brother Jakeem, Brother Jardea, Brother Vaughn, of course, and Sister Sherry, Sister Tracy. Appreciate y'all. Help make my show. All right. Beware of any Christian movement that acts as though the world is full of enemies, to be destroyed rather than full of neighbors to be loved. Yeah. Beware of any Christian movement that demands the government be an instrument of God's wrath, but never a source of God's mercy, generosity, or compassion. And beware of that, because you know what? It's a cult. Yeah. Right. I want to thank the brother from the Defiant Lawyers for this. White first. Have you ever wondered why Donald Trump gets away with all the things that he gets away with? All the rhetoric that comes out of his mouth? And recently the man said that he didn't like playing football when he was younger because he didn't like the guys from the rough neighborhood tackling him. Excuse me. From the rough neighborhood. He was talking about black people, black men to be specific. He also said that he would use the military, or he thinks the military should be used, and the National Guard against the enemy from within. I saw a Republican say that one of the reasons he left the Republican Party was that no matter how much they were opposed to the Democratic Party, they were Americans first. Then when they started talking about the enemy within, they started talking about killing other Americans. The enemy within. In other words, American citizens. He said that if he doesn't win, there will be a bloodbath. He called people vermin. He uses all sorts of fascist, autocratic rhetoric as he's out on the campaign trail, all types of racist, white supremacist rhetoric, and yet his supporters, they love him. They love how he's able to get away with that. Somebody else's campaign would be over. Remember Howard Dean? Was he from Massachusetts? Somewhere, from New England, from up north. And he was running for president and doing the Democratic primary. He just let out a loud shrill, a loud noise. Ooh-ha! The press eviscerated him. They didn't just end his campaign, they ended his political career just for that. Remember 15 years ago, 20 years ago? Remember Trent Lott? Everybody knew Trent Lott was a white supremacist. But when he came out and complimented Strom Thurmond, a staunch segregationist and white supremacist, that was pretty much the end of his political career. Just simply complimenting a known segregationist. And once again, the press is eviscerating him. But the Orange Disaster says all this stuff. He even led a violent insurrection that cost 5 police officers their lives, and a bunch more were assaulted and injured, yet he's still the favorite of the GOP. Now, how's he able to do this? Don't get it mixed. One big reason because of the support of the undying support of white evangelicals. And about 9 out of 10 white evangelicals support Donald Trump. And the irony is, these people are supposed to be people of the Bible, people of the truth, people of decency, people of honesty, people of respect. Boy, is that beautiful. Ooh. Yeah, let me get my finger on the mic button here so this don't go out and don't get us jammed up. Bullshit. But it doesn't surprise me because it was white evangelicals who strongly supported slavery and the institution of slavery. In fact, had the enslaver not had the same support of white evangelical, slavery may not have lasted 250 years. It was because of the strong support of white churches, white clergy, white theologians, white seminarians, white seminaries that caused slavery to last as long as it did. And when slavery was abolished, those same white evangelicals supported Jim Crow. Don't get it mixed. So it's no surprise that Trump has the strong, undying support of white evangelicals. And many will say it's because of abortion, it's because of transgender. No. The real reason is because they support white supremacy. And you see many white evangelicals are white first. They're white before they're Christian. They put their whiteness above their faith. Quite often, we have heard about the fact that when whites were routinely lynching African American people, they would do so immediately after church. They'd be in church like, that was the Sunday hangout after church. The minister would announce the lynching from the pulpit. And the white churchgoers would say to each other, hey, you going to the lynching today? This is so-called Christians. I recently saw a black female minister state that she's Christian before she's black. As a matter of fact, if you ask her what she is before she says she's black, she's Christian. Malcolm X said the most segregated hour in America is Sunday high noon. And this woman got up and said she's Christian first. That she feels a sense of sisterhood or brotherhood with Christians before she does black people, because she's Christian first. Yeah, I see these MAGA people went to the MAGA rally. These black MAGA people went to the MAGA rally, and white evangelicals who are white first beat their ass. I had no sympathy for them taking that ass whooping. None whatsoever. Immediately after church, you going to the lynching today? You going to the lynching, the white evangelicals. Yet these people are supposed to be representative of Jesus. So it doesn't surprise me that Trump can do what he does, treat people the way he treats people, talk about people the way he talks about people, being convicted of 34 felonies and so on and so on and so on, and still had the support of 9 out of 10 white Christians. Why is that? Because they're white first. WHGE 95.3 FM. The Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs. Just to give you an idea of what some of these people actually believe. Okay. Christian identity is its interpretation of the original origin of the white race to the advocates of Christian identity. The Bible is a history of the white race according to them. It is taught that Adam and Eve were the first white people from whom all their white races descended. Another Christian identity teaching is that Adam and Eve were created only after all the racism people existed on earth. These other races, the races of color, such as blacks, Asians, and Latinos, were not, according to some interpretations, created directly by God. Rather, they developed their lengthy process of evolution originating from the ashes of the earth, the residue from the earth's creation, because the white race is God's chosen race. Only whites have immortal souls, and all others are eternally damned and cannot obtain salvation. Okay, other interpretations is that Adam and Eve, and that blacks and whites, Adam and Eve, God created Adam and Eve, and that blacks and whites were the only original people that existed. The blacks had a specific purpose on earth. And this is what they believe. And that's to be servants to whites. Furthermore, it is concluded that all other races are the results of inbreeding between blacks and whites. That's what they believe, that, Asians and Hispanic people and indigenous people in North America and Australia are the result of inbreeding between blacks and whites. And you want to call yourself a Christian? Because, you know, if you believe that, then you believe that the Christian God is a racist and don't like black people. Because that's what they believe. They definitely believe that they are immortal. It makes me think of the 3/5 thing in the Constitution. When they came up with this idea of 3/5, that we're 3/5 of a human. See, they didn't count us as 3/5 of a human because they were disparaging our humanity. It was about the count. That's what that was about. The 3/5 of a human. It was about the count. The South wanted to count their slaves as citizens so they could have more seats in the legislature, in Congress. Okay, the Northerners said, no, we can't allow you to count all them slaves and outnumber us like that. So they came up with an agreement. And that agreement was, you can count the blacks as 3/5 of a person. Actually had nothing to do with their thoughts on our humanity, because they did not recognize our humanity. They didn't think we were 3/5 of a human. They did not think we were human at all. Don't get that mixed. Stop talking about they only recognize 3/5 of our humanity. They didn't recognize her humanity whatsoever and still don't. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Patrice Gibbs, time getting close, y'all. All right. The fact that indigenous people seek recognition and not revenge should tell you exactly which culture is the civilized one. Didn't recognize our humanity. Civility has its season, but reciprocity does too. Yeah, and I talked about this before. It makes me think of when this white guy was asked by his black coworker, why is it that other people, other races are sometimes so nervous around black people? And the white guy answered, you know, if what had happened to y'all had happened to us, we would burn this mother down. And we don't know if today is the day that y'all gonna decide this is it. Yeah. One of the people that I admired, and if I were you, I would look her up, especially some of you younger people that don't remember hip hop's Black Power days. And Sister Soldier, I'm gonna quote her now. I think she was on Donahue or something when she broke this down. She said, all the programs I attended, all the education that I had, college, public, and otherwise, nobody ever told me that I was an African. Nobody ever told me what the history of African people were. Nobody ever told me that America is business, and without business, you will have nothing and be nothing. And nobody ever told me how to organize business so that I would be able to develop institutions in my own community. So now the sincerity of all the programs and all the education has to be questioned, indicted, and convicted, because the bottom line is that America is not and has never tried to produce African adults who are functional, self-sufficient, who understand their politics, their economics, and their relationship to the world politics and the world economics. And that's from Sister Soldier. And it brings me around to those that tried to do so. Brother Allen, thank you. The Black Panther Party was founded October 15, 1966 in Oakland, California. And here are 5 things you may or may not have known about them. This comes from Brother History 3. Check him out on, I think, TikTok. He has actually put together a museum in Oakland on the Black Panthers. And 5 things you may or may not have known. 1, before they founded the party, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale were organizing students at Merritt College. That's where they advocated for the first Black Studies course in the nation. And this was 4 years prior to the first Black Studies department at San Francisco State. 2, the first program was helping elementary school kids cross the street because they were getting hit by cars. The city of Oakland said it would take years to install a stoplight. When the Panthers started directing traffic, the city came and did it expeditiously. Oh yeah, you moved on it then, huh? Mm-hmm. The Panthers said, we want an end to the robbery by the capitalists in our Black and oppressed communities. They meant everyone who did business in their communities had an obligation to contribute to the free food programs, and others who didn't got boycotted, and usually that was the white-owned chain grocery store. But there was a time when they boycotted a Black-owned liquor store in North Oakland. Don't put poison in our community and then turn around and don't contribute to the food programs. 4, the average age of a Black Panther was 19 years old. These were teenagers. Bobby Seale said that 2/3 of the Black Panther Party were women. 5, the Black Panther Party was so influential that people all over the world emulated them. They were the Panthers in Delhi, India, Polynesian Panthers, Panthers in New Zealand, Australian Black Panther Party. There was also a British Black Panther Party. Poor and oppressed people all over the world felt their struggle, felt their tactics. Remember, Fred Hampton said, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can never kill a revolution. Now you had those that were, at that time, highly critical of the Black Panther Party. I'll tell you something about them. The elite colonialists of the civil rights era did little more than line their pockets. That's why they turned over Martin so quickly and easily. Most of them landed in powerful political offices. Some even became icons. Don't get it mixed. The Congressional Black Caucus is nothing but a PAC, Political Action Committee, to collect corporate funds. Look at the districts and their members. And these districts are some of the poorest, worst represented districts in the country. Their leaders bring no tangibles to the people they purport to represent, yet are wealthy and supposedly powerful. And when one of them dies, we act as though Black people had suffered a great loss. No, we didn't. Because they weren't doing nothing for us to benefit our communities any goddamn way. Now, those that claim the mantle of black power like to pretend Martin woke up in the last couple of years of his life. God know who I'm talking about. Martin was woke as F. And he was radical from the gate. As a matter of fact, Martin scared the hell out of the civil rights elders of his time and his contemporary allies. When they could no longer rein him in, they turned on him. Adam knew. Adam Clayton Powell, yeah, he knew. Because he said Martin doesn't belong to the decadent aristocratic colonialists of the civil rights movement. And he didn't. Because I look at some of them that were right there with Martin. And right now, or immediately after his death, they should have been the most radical people in the country. And many of them were not. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Ready to close out, but I want to run something by you before I do. And this is a quote from Jennifer Sodner. She's an author and life coach. And what she says is, when you think about another as selfish or wrong, you're putting that negativity out there. You're saying that they are less than good, less than love. And when you believe that another human being can be less than love, you believe you can be less than love, and so you will be. That's from Jennifer Sodner, author and life coach. Don't you let her coach you. That's that BS. This fails to recognize that some people are a negative force and are effed up and don't deserve to be in your life. Even worse, this states that if you call people out for being effed up, you're effed up. Don't buy into that, let's all hold hands and sing kumbaya, because some people are effed up. And it's wise to recognize that and act accordingly. It's this kind of unrealistic BS that got our people in trouble. This that BS. That's what it is. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Thank you for joining me. Hey, Kev. Kind of late, catch the rebroadcast. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on the Open Eye. I hope you learned something. I know I did. And as we always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option. This has been Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm Patrice Gibbs. All right. And as I always tell you, global African supremacy, because the world was a much better place when the African ruled.